All right, folks, we have two dates that you might want to remember because Bitcoin might pump on either one of these two dates. And yes, they have to do with specific state reserves. Yes, there are 17 states that have started the process going, but there's two of them that could do it very, very soon. And those are Utah and South Dakota. Now, Utah has a more solid date. A bill was actually introduced on January 20th, and it only has 45 days since January 20th to get approval. Now, I do actually believe it has already passed the House, but on a 37-34 vote. So it was very, very slim margin for passing the House, and we do hope it'll pass the Senate. I do actually think Utah will actually pass the Senate because it does actually have backing. But that is like the first solid date that we have. So January 20th, 45 days since January 20th. We're roughly at February 10th. We've already 20 days into the 45 days. So in the next 25 days, it will actually be decided. So that deadline is coming up fast, and that's March 5th. And that could actually get legislative approval, and I'm pretty sure it will be signed by the governor once it gets legislative approval, and Utah would be the first one to get a reserve. Now, Utah is not an extremely big financial state, but all it takes is one to get the ball rolling. Once you get the ball rolling, the money will come falling in as other states will follow suit. Now, North Dakota actually voted on this before, but North Dakota actually rejected the bill. So Utah has more cooking for it than North Dakota. Now, South Dakota is the other state that we're actually looking at. But South Dakota's date is a little less tangible. They have generally until the second week of March. So March 15th or March 14th is when you want to mark your calendar. That's when South Dakota might actually be able to get it. I think there is significantly more support in South Dakota than North Dakota for this bill, because South Dakota has one of the shortest legislative sessions there is. And I do think like there's way more support for it in South Dakota than its northern neighbor. So I think like if either of these bills gets passed, I do not think the governor of either state will actually veto it. So we will actually get it. Basically, the House bill is Bill 1202, and that was introduced on January 30th. And the Utah bill basically was introduced on January 20th. And hopefully we can get one of these in. So essentially, March 5th and March 15th, those are the two dates you want to actually look at. And as for how much money we can actually get from it, it's hard to say. Utah is 5% of their state funds. South Dakota is up to 10% of their state funds. Now, Utah has more funds than South Dakota because Utah is way more populous. So basically, in the state budget reserves, South Dakota has $322.8 million, but South Dakota's budget is $2.3 billion per year. So I'm not really sure if it's $2.3 billion, 10% of $2.3 billion, which is his budget, or 10% of $322 million, which is reserves. Either way, it's not a huge amount. Hundreds of millions of dollars at the most. Utah's is much bigger. Utah's fund is $35 billion, but remember, they're at 5%. But its treasury, I think, is only a couple of billion. I think it's like 4.5 billion or like something like that. But, Utah's fund balance is 35 billion, but its state's yearly funds are basically, I think, a little lower than that. So if they put 5% of 35 billion, that is 1.75 billion, and that could actually be a lot. So Utah, even though at a lower percentage, it is bigger than South Dakota. And South Dakota, although like 10%, I'm not really sure if it's 10% of 322 million or the state budget, which is around $2.3 billion. So the numbers aren't great for these two states, but that's not what's important. It's just getting the ball rolling. And once we get it rolling, a lot of other bigger states will come along. So that's the news for today. Let me know what you think. Like and subscribe, hit that bell notifications button. Thank you and have a nice day.